Welcome to Belated Tech Musings, the channel dedicated to retro tech, innovation, science, and technological entertainment. The U.S. Space Force is officially recruiting. No, not like this vintage poster. More like this slick webpage, a new recruiting commercial released this week on Twitter. The newest branch of the U.S. Armed Forces was launched in 2019 with $40 million and a commanding general, and not much else other than the paper transfer of the U.S. Air Force Space Command and an office in the Pentagon. The Space Command is staffed with 16,000 civilians and airmen, which are to begin transfer near the end of fiscal year 2020. Army soldiers and Navy sailors are expected to transfer in fiscal year 2022. 10,000 billets have been allocated to the Space Force for fiscal year 2021, indicating transfer orders will begin in earnest soon. Given the current growing pains in incorporating current personnel into a new service branch, it seems unlikely that there is an immediate need for new recruits. Nevertheless, the Air Force has seen a recruiting opportunity in advertising its new subordinate service branch. Let's take a look.
Some people look to the stars and ask, what if? Our job is to have an answer. We have to imagine what will be imagined. Plan for what's possible, while it's still impossible. Maybe you weren't put here just to ask the questions. Maybe you were put here to be the answer. Maybe your purpose on this planet isn't on this planet.
An excellent spot with high production values. This isn't the first time the Air Force has used its Space Command as a recruiting tool. It has run several commercials over the last 10 years, extolling the virtues of maintaining combat-ready space capabilities. Let's take a look at these for comparison.
Sir, debris heading toward our comm satellite. Impact may cut off communications with ground forces.
Launch avoidance maneuver. "20 kilometers in closing."
Collision averted, sir. All objects are accounted for.
Good job.
Learn more at airforce.com.
My name is Colonel Benjamin Alvin Drew Jr. I grew up in Washington, D.C. When I was growing up, if you look in any of my textbooks, any of my notebooks, you'll find the margins filled with doodles of airplanes, jets, rockets. If it left the surface of the Earth and went somewhere else on an adventure, it was probably going to fill my imagination. If you weren't going to go to college, then you would go into the service. And for me, I didn't necessarily want to choose between the two, so I tried to do both. My experience in the Air Force is that your competency and your character count, and almost nothing else does beyond that. If you are willing to work hard enough to go do the things necessary to get where you want to go, you can get there. I was flying helicopters in special operations, applied to become a test pilot. I got into the test pilot program. Every 2 years, usually NASA has a levy for astronauts, and every 2 years, test pilots and test engineers apply to become astronauts. So in about the year 2000, I applied to become an astronaut and got accepted. Looking back 11 years later, no, I had no clue as to the magnitude of how much life will change. I don't know if there's anything that can prepare you for leaving the Earth the way you do in a space shuttle. About 10 seconds out, the shuttle main engines ignite. The best way to describe it is like 10 million subwoofers stampeding up that shuttle stack, and they ultimately engulf you. You get shoved back into your seat and you are leaving the pad. You don't know if you're going into space, but you know you are not sitting at that launch pad anymore. At about 8.5 minutes, we were about 100 miles up, going about 17,500 miles an hour, and the engines cut off. So I went from being pressed into my seat at 3 Gs to being weightless. Being one of those kids who wanted to become an astronaut and actually growing up to be an astronaut is a surreal experience. When opportunity knocks at your door, it's sometimes a scary thing. It'd be easier thing to do would be to simply go off and do something that seems more realistic. Don't be realistic. Don't be reasonable. Be bold, be courageous in following that dream. Everyone takes a certain amount of courage to step across that threshold and into that new adventure.
I'm Captain Erin Hendricks. I am a space control officer. I work in the Space Situational Awareness Operations team. As a space control officer, I specifically need to know where objects are in space at all times. If we're on the operations floor working that day and we're notified that there's a collision that has happened or is happening, my job is to go up and call the sensors and task out the specific objects we believe collided. And it's a constant flow of communication between us and the sensor networks and us and our higher headquarters. They will notify the owner-operator that their satellite might be too close to another satellite. The owner-operator's responsibility to take that information and build whatever maneuver plan they need to. I like that I'm very young and I have a lot of leadership responsibility. I never saw myself in the technology field, but now that I'm there and now that I work with people who have the big brains to operate those systems, I couldn't imagine life any other way. I would have never done this job had I not joined the Air Force.
Space. For decades, it's been an uncontested domain, hundreds of miles above the Earth's surface, the ultimate high ground. The United States Air Force has owned this high ground of space for decades. Other nations, other air forces only dream of making such a claim. But what if their dream became reality? Revisionist world powers have a new focus for their aggression. Their target? Space. They don't have to dominate it, just disrupt it. Millions feel the effects. Banks, airports, infrastructure. Our prosperity could be at risk. And so could this. And this. And them. It's clear. Space capabilities fuel our American way of life and our American way of war. Yesterday's thinking will not defeat tomorrow's challenges. It's time to evolve, to change the way we protect and defend our vital interests in space. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines will all be called to defend the ultimate high ground. We must increase our capacity and capabilities by partnering with our allies, other government partners, and industry. By collaborating, innovating, and integrating, our space capabilities will be resilient, a combat-ready part of the multi-domain warfighting network.
We got to launch.
Stand by. Data building. Zooming in on grid Whiskey Charlie 6. Check sources. Intel confirmed. Probable ASAT launch.
You have 2 for data release.
This is Sibers. ASAT launch from Grid Whiskey Charlie 6. How copy?
Copy. ASAT launch. Initiating threat reaction.
Sir, I recommend a mission transfer from Spacecraft 4 to Spacecraft 6.
Any attack against our space capabilities
Execute.
will be met with a deliberate response.
Killing track 05877.
At a time, place, manner, and domain of our choosing. By working side by side, together.
Batteries release.
We'll compete, and we'll win.
In Argue 1-2, we have good effects on the ground.
Ground forces are reporting the threat's been neutralized.
What do you think of the U.S. Air Force using the U.S. Space Force as a recruiting tool, and the Space Force and Space Command's recruiting in general? Share with us by dropping a comment below. We hope you enjoyed this briefing on the Space Force's first recruitment commercial, and a nostalgic look at the Air Force Space Command's recruiting and public relations commercials. If so, click that like button. Clicking the subscribe button and bell notification icon will also help you stay informed when new episodes are released. Links to previous space industry-related episodes and our other content can be found below. Stay connected by occasionally checking our Instagram feed, where we post content from our upcoming episodes and from episodes past that you may have missed. Make sure you follow our Twitter account, where all new episodes are announced. And finally, join us on our Facebook page, where we cover current news and events related to channel content. Thanks for watching.